welcome to our talk this afternoon, and thank you for coming. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Senta Goertler from Michigan State University, where she's an associate professor of second language studies and German. She has a PhD from Arizona in second language acquisition and teaching, and her research area has been in the use of technology to support the teaching and learning of languages, technology and pedagogy, online and blended learning, and most recently has gotten involved with using technology to support study abroad. And I think that's what the topic of today is about. So yes. Welcome, Senta.
Thank you very much. Make sure I'm attached. Yeah, this is my way of making sure you know the old and the new me. So I've been doing technology research for a while, and I'm moving in the direction of researching more on study abroad, which was what my sabbatical was about to be about. And then I got a lot of requests to talk about online education still and technology, so I'm mixing the two and coming together with the best of two worlds. So thank you for having such a sunshiny day for me. I hear that's the norm here, right? This is normal March temperature. It's always this way. And for coming out so late and staying here with me. So what I will be talking to you about is our challenges, both our local campus as well as nationally, what our goals are, our issues with articulation, participation, meaning enrollment, and then expanding on Rachel Shively, who of course is a very well-known name to all of you, not to me, but I do like her work. And then innovation times 3, so 3 curricular innovations that we implemented that relate to technology and study abroad, before study abroad, during study abroad, and after study abroad, and then some preliminary conclusions. I should be honest from the get-go and let you know that we've had 1.5 iterations, so I'm comparing 5 years to 1.5 years. It's a little bit of an unfair comparison, but the idea is that we grow this research and eventually can actually compare 5 and 5. But we're not there yet. So what are some of the challenges? And I hope I'm not in your frame too much. So I'm going to go over here so I can see all of you and you can see the screen. So the competing sets of goals is a big challenge in language education. We're supposed to achieve the ACTFL proficiency guidelines according to what we have set as our research, as our goal level goals, which we actually did evidence-based. So we conducted where are they at and what are realistic goals. Of course, the Minnesota Articulation Project was a good one that influenced our work. And then we have the 5 C's that we want to adhere to. We have our own German studies goals. We want our students to know the methodologies and the jargon of our field. And our field is both cultural studies and applied linguistics and so on and so forth. And then we also have the undergraduate learning goals, which are Michigan State University's goals for all programs across campus. So our goals are for second year, we want them to be at intermediate mid. And for fourth year, so at the end of our program, we don't necessarily want them, but we have to have them at advanced low because that's what the state of Michigan says for our teacher candidate. It's a pretty tough goal, so I'm glad to see CARLA's work on advanced proficiency because we need work on that to help us out. These are our undergraduate learning goals. You can take them with humor or with seriousness, whichever way you want. So we want analytical thinking, cultural understanding, effective citizenship, effective communication, and integrated reasoning. And some of those match better, and some not so good with language education. We also want to improve our articulation. So we want to have, and here I'm quoting from Kathy Barrett and Kate Paisani, who of course is also coming out and a wonderful colleague. And so we have vertical articulation, making sure that we're doing similar things, working on similar goals across levels, and also horizontal across sections. So our first year needs to work towards our fourth year, and our second year sections need to be working on the same things, otherwise we have a little bit of a problem. But we also need to be interdisciplinarily articulated. Are we working on the same undergraduate learning goals as the rest of the university? And one of our issues, well, no, I'm giving away the answer key. We also know that an articulation problem across the country is that language literature gap, where we have first and second year, and then we have the content courses in the third and fourth year, and they don't always match very well. We're very lucky in our German program where we don't have that problem, where actually we have excellent communication across levels, a lot of cross-fertilization, so that's not our issue. We also are integrating our co-curricular activities very nicely in our curriculum. We have mentoring as a very important piece of our curriculum as well. But we sort of have that study abroad thing, right? So, oh, you're so great and your German is great, let's send you abroad. And then you come back. But we're not yet completely integrating that piece into our curriculum. And that's a missed opportunity that we need to capitalize on. Other issues, of course, German is no longer the favorite language, you know? We're not doing so well. So overall, according to the most recent MLA report, we have a 6.7% decrease in foreign language enrollments, even worse in German with 9.3. We have a 4.1 drop in foreign language majors, even worse in German with 12.1. So this is the part where we get sad in the evening. And our ratio of lower level to upper level, according to all foreign languages in the MLA report, is staying consistent as 5:1. In German, we've gone to the worse with more students in our lower and not enough in our upper, which of course goes along with the decrease in majors and minors. We also are seeing an increase in study abroad. So that is at first promising. And we also have seen this recent initiative and Generation Study Abroad to double participation in study abroad by 2020. Right now we have 1 in 10 students going abroad. We want that to be 2 in 10, so 20%. Here's, from a language learning perspective, my problem, and that is that the vast majority of students are going on short-term programs that may or may not include a language component. So what I want is increase these people that go for the whole year and that are doing meaningful integration and lots of language learning while they're there, because otherwise they're missing out. So let's look at our numbers. Our study abroad participation. We have 4 different programs we have 27 programs in Germany, and 4 of them have a language component. So really, I say we have 4, even though we have 27. And of the 4, I really only focus on 2. So it gets more manageable. And we have these 2 semester-long programs down here. And there we really do the good luck to you. We think there's an office where you're going that will take care of you, and then we'll see you when you get back. Our summer program, which is, of course, our largest program, one of our faculty members goes with a group of students for 6 weeks, 5 of those weeks in a tiny, small community, and then we do a little travel through Germany at the end. And then we have our year-long program, which is a collaboration with the University of Wisconsin, University of Michigan, and the University of Iowa. And there's always a resident director who is a faculty member from one of those 4 universities there, teaching a class per semester and in charge of academic advising and health and safety of the students. So that's our program. And if we look at the 2 programs that I really care about, we've seen a drop in participation. That did not make me happy. Our enrollments are going down. They're not going horribly down, but they are going down. But here's an interesting piece. Our ratio of lower to upper is getting better. We're converting more students from our first and second year into third and fourth year students. They're not necessarily majors and minors, but they're continuing. And we actually have a new problem, which is that we have too many TAs to teach first and second year, and we don't have enough instructors to teach third and fourth year, but we are not allowed to use TAs to teach third and fourth year. So we have a new problem. We'll see how it goes. In 2000, it must have been 2000, after 2009. We introduced minors. We didn't used to have minors at Michigan State University. And since then, as we suspected, our number of majors has gone down. We figured that would. But our overall number has gone up. So the combination of majors and minors is now at about 200, and we're very happy with that. And with more study abroad, we think we can convert even more. So the gap that we're trying to close here is achieve our goals, improve our articulation, and increase the participation, so enrollment and study abroad participation. And so we've done a few things, many of which I will not talk about, even though they were genius, and many of them were not my idea. So credit goes to a lot of other people. We shifted our course offerings. We now have more courses on the upper level than we had before. So thank you to my German colleagues. We eliminated sequencing in our third year level to make that more flexible for students, especially those that have demanding majors that don't allow them to take courses when they want to. We encourage level skipping. So when I get the final exam scores, I send an email to, let's say, John, and I say, hey, John, you did really well in German 202. I think you should now go into German 302 instead of 301, or maybe even higher. And how about study abroad? And how about you talk to Cindy about being a German major or minor? So yeah, we email the high achievers. We go into classrooms to recruit for our major and minor and also for our study abroad. We have our pre-departure orientations have expanded a lot. We do a lot more materials. We now do our study abroad interviews with people from the place where they're going. So that we Skype them in. And our advisor has now started putting on a re-entry workshop for the students returning, which they're not taking advantage of, but they should. Here are the innovations that I want to talk about, because those are the ones that I'm actually responsible for, and so I feel like those I can take credit for. One of them was that we changed our second-year curriculum to include modules about our study abroad destinations. In our study abroad courses, we now have analysis tasks, going along with Rachel Shively's work, to get the students engaged to what is my language like, how is the language around me, and what does that mean, noticing the gap. And we also introduced the telecollaboration in our fourth year level with, again, our study abroad destination to help those returning still feel that connection and see a purpose in our language classes. So this might be, first, the changing face of study abroad. We know this, right? How many of you have studied abroad? Okay, looks good. So you took classes, probably. You probably lived with people from that country, either in dorms or in a host family. And you probably traveled a lot. And nowadays, we also see a lot of service learning, internships as part of study abroad programs, or even as the thing that is the abroad experience. And there is not necessarily a classroom study component. And the other piece that we have is the technology. And as Emma Trentman has found in her research on study abroad in Egypt, Morocco, one of the two, that the students were actually using more English than they were using Arabic because they were so staying connected to their home cultures. So Rachel Shively's argument, and I support her fully, is that why not use it to our advantage? Use the technology to get them more engaged rather than to have it be this thing that disengages them from study abroad. So hers was specifically focused on the learning of pragmatics. I'm going to expand it, but the idea is the same thing. So before you pique their interest, you raise the awareness, you get them connected. While they're there, you turn them into little ethnographers that are analyzing the language around them, and then afterwards you help them stay connected. So here's how it looks, the expanded version. So before study abroad, we have the technology-enhanced modules about the study abroad destinations. We have alumni videos and stories. We make them blog about the kinds of things that they're supposed to start imagining themselves doing. And we engage them in digital projects. During abroad, like I said, we had them record. Unfortunately, this was the year that the NSA scandal hit Germany. So that posed some difficulties with getting permission to record. So there was supposed to be a whole lot more recording native speakers. Having an American stand in front of them with a permission slip to record them was not the right year. I think this year we could try it again. And they also keep a reflective blog about these analysis tasks that they conducted with the recordings, and they comment on each other. And then they did an empirical research project. And after they come back, like I said, they are engaged in this telecollaboration. And they also are keeping reflective blogs with commentary. The course that they're in covers 4 questions. How is language structured? How is language used? How is language learned? And how can I maximize my own language development? And so obviously the blogs are about these kinds of topics. And they also do a digital empirical project. These are my lovely colleagues who've been so nice and supportive and playing along with my plans, however crazy they are. So big thanks to them. So here's what happened to us. So we had decreasing enrollment. We had the issue that study abroad was disconnected from our overall curriculum, and we needed them to transition more smoothly to their abroad destinations. So for that, we introduced these technology-enhanced modules. We had them blog. We had them complete the digital projects. And our hope was that it would increase our study abroad enrollments and it would smoothen the transition. And this is, how many of you teach German? Okay. How many of you know this book? Okay, so this is Stationen, a great book from some colleagues in Berkeley. And this book is organized by German-speaking communities. So each chapter is a German-speaking community. We cover one chapter in 2 weeks. And we said, why should we talk about some of those communities that we don't find that crucial? Let's talk about the communities where we have study abroad program. So I'm sorry, Hamburg, but Hamburg is no longer part of us. Instead, we now have Freiburg, Mayen, Jena, and Konstanz as the 4 places where we have our study abroad programs. Of course, we teach the 2 programs, the 2 destinations where the deadline is at the end of the fall semester, in the 3rd semester, and I know the deadline is in the summer. We do it in the 4th semester. We planned that. And then at the end of the 3rd semester, they do a project where they have to create a video for a German audience, real Germans, about their home, however they define home. And the idea is these people want to come visit your home, whether it's a utopian place or a concrete place or a city or a region. Germans want to come to your place and you teach them. So they have to know the audience and figure out how to present it to them. In the 4th semester, they create a website following the same kind of structure that we had about a German-speaking community somewhere in the world. So again, they have to have all these different components, and the website is for other learners of German, and we compile them all across all of our sections, and we have one master website, and it's beautiful, and we get to learn about German communities in Argentina and Brazil, in Africa, and so on and so forth. And this is an example. So here is KONSTANZ, and like I said, we have 2 weeks, which for us is 8 class meetings. And we start out with the geography and history. We talk about famous people. Then we talk about grammar point 1, because we do still teach grammar somehow. Then we talk about the things that are unique about the town. So Konstanz being at the 4-country region. And then you see here the blog that they have to engage with is, what does it mean to live at a border? Because of course Michigan is also at a border, but a very different kind of border than the border between Konstanz and Germany and Switzerland in Konstanz. And then we talk about another grammar point. Then we talk about the difference between the Fachhochschule and the Universität. So those are different kinds of universities in Germany that don't actually exist in the same kind of way here. But we happen to have our exchange program at a Fachhochschule. So we need them to understand what that is and how that is different. And then the blog is about how would your course of study look differently if you were at that kind of, if this kind of college would exist here in the United States. And then they see a video blog of alumni from the program and people from Konstanz. And then we're another genius move. We talk about the German major and minor, because remember, our grammar point is modal verbs. So they talk about what do you want to do, have to do, should you do if you are a German major and minor. And then at the end, we hand them the sign-up sheet for a meeting with our advisor. Yes, and we convert people like that. So the data that...
When you said, I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
can I ask you? So
Yeah.
when you said future, it is what the future of
Future tense. So that's our grammar.
tenses,
Yeah,
so
this is
that's
our
what
grammar.
so-
Yeah, but they also talk about then their future and how they envision study abroad and living in Germany plays a role in their future. But it's our grammar points.
Just future tense.
Yes, it's our 2 grammar points. So we have 1 grammar point per week. So the data from which I'm drawing my conclusions is our registration data and also a survey that was administered to both the participants in the study abroad as well as the coordinators. It's looking good. Here's our 5-year average before and then our 2-year average afterwards. We're doing good. We're increasing. Most dramatically in our FREIBURG program, we went from around 5 to around 10. I sent 11 last year, 1 dropped out, so I was at 10, and I'm at 9.5 right now. So 9 that are committed to go and a 0.5 that has to wait on some scholarship information to make her decision. So that's good. Then we asked them, well, how prepared did you feel in terms of your language ability, your cultural preparation, logistically, and in comparison to your peers? We had to throw out a whole bunch of students who previously went on study abroad, because obviously if they already lived in Germany for a year or 2 or 3, our modules didn't really make a difference. So we asked the students who didn't go abroad. So Mayan, yes, means those were students that went to Mayan and that had been exposed to our module about Mayan. It didn't turn out as we had hoped. They actually said that they were culturally less prepared than those that had not been exposed to the module. We think that this could be several different things. So this is a new change So the people that have been exposed to this module are the students with the lowest proficiency level. So there might be an overlap here. Another thing is we had several units in our module about culture shock, homesickness, and so on and so forth. So we might have made them more aware, which is actually what one of the students said. I was so scared after the module, but she recovered. And then they felt less prepared than their peers, and again, we think that this is primarily the difference in language proficiency, which should even out over time as we get students further in the program. But they did feel more logistically prepared. So that's good-ish news. Some thoughts from the students. So one student said, I'm not sure there is any way to completely prepare for cultural immersion. I did, however, feel that MSU study abroad helped me feel a little bit more at ease about it. Okay, makes me somewhat happy. I've been able to adjust well here in Freiburg, but nearly everyone else seems to have had much more experience, such as high school courses in previous time. This is again the issue of these students being the lowest language proficiency. The summer newsletter really helped for the Freiburg program. So they also are starting to get these newsletters about 3-4 months before they actually go to Freiburg from the Freiburg office about things that they need to do. Then it helped me make the decision to take the study abroad and also helped me absorb a lot of the information received right off the bat on site. And this is a common theme, that because I had already heard it once before I went, or maybe even multiple times, I was now ready to take it in. And this is my favorite one. Without spending 2 weeks learning about Mayan and also the program, it isn't entirely likely I would have found the program to begin with. Being well informed about the city history and region of my destination was beneficial. And that's exactly who our target audience was. The student who would have never figured out that we have a study abroad program, no matter how many times we come and visit his or her class. It helped me understand the different steps of homesickness, so here the cultural unit actually helped. I knew about the variety of things to do in and around the area, so again, just one of those logistical hurdles is taken care of. This is what the coordinators had to say about what they perceive as the impact of our new modules. And so they said that they were about, so 0 would be worse than the previous years, 1 is same, and 2 would be better than the previous years. And so enrollment, they said, went up. I mean, we see that clearly. They agree with us, so that's good. Then my colleague made a little mistake because he said that they actually were better in language proficiency, but he meant that they were worse. You know, sometimes you click the wrong box in the online survey. And then they said about the same for culture and logistic. And then here, one of the coordinators for the Freiburg program said that he felt that they were better prepared. And this was the person who has been the program coordinator there for 13 years. The person who was there fairly new said it's about the same. But of course, she had a lot less knowledge. So I'm going to trust him and say that they were better prepared. Here are some of the things that they said. So the main coordinator of the summer program said the 2014 group had an overall lower proficiency than many groups in the past. Again, we started recruiting them more and we got them earlier, which resulted in lower language proficiency. Should even out over time, but maybe not. Students were familiar with the names of Jena and Mayan, so they had that first contact and that helped them navigate. The Freiburg coordinator said, in my assessment, the modules are quite successful at supporting the increased recruitment efforts and probably have contributed as well to a relatively smooth adjustment of most of the group's members. So they knew what to expect, they knew the town. One of the activities in our Freiburg unit is a simulation about picking the right dorm for you, and then it was a lot easier to pick the right dorm because they had already talked it through a few times. On all other measures, students' personalities seem to play a larger role. Of course, individual differences are huge. I would have expected improved intercultural awareness. I did not notice that, but certainly have been seeing a higher level of awareness about what Freiburg specifically has to offer, and that has proven valuable in itself. Keep up the good work. So here we see a little bit of a mismatch. Here our local program coordinator had the expectation that our modules would help them be more interculturally competent. That was never our goal. So not to say that we couldn't do that in the future, but that wasn't our goal from the get-go. So here again, sort of summing up this part, we wanted to increase our enrollment, we wanted to improve the transitions, we increased the enrollments, we have them logistically more prepared, they may be more aware of their issues, they really thought that the existing technologies were helpful for them. We had more lower proficiency program participants, so our first reaction was, ooh, this is going to be a continued problem and maybe we need to start offering some course offerings on that lower level. This second iteration, it doesn't appear to be an issue. So maybe it was just a fluke. It's something to monitor. And then they also might be more aware of their shortcomings. Now that they're learning about different intercultural communicative competence issues and homesickness, they might be more afraid than before. So we just need more language training and more intercultural competence training, integrate that even more. So then we have during study abroad. So this is Freiburg, for those of you not known, my hometown. Very nice. So here what we noticed is that the language proficiency development was not always sufficient. My worst case ever was a student who came back with a lower proficiency level than she had when she left. And she went for a year. It's not the norm, but that certainly was a wake-up call for me to say, oof, we got to do something plus. And their intercultural competence didn't always develop, especially in our short-term programs. Oftentimes we reinforce stereotypes rather than actually moving them to intercultural competence. So we sent them over, and they were taught by me, and we made them record and analyze their recordings. We made them reflect in blogs, do their research project, and we hoped that it would increase their awareness and noticing, so hopefully we saw it, and improve their communicative competence or their intercultural communicative competence. In the first semester, this is not all students, there were about 30 students and only some of them participated in these courses. In the first semester, I offered an Applied Linguistics for Study Abroad course, and so thank you, CARLA, for having the Maximizing Study Abroad handbook, because that pretty much was our course book for much of the course, and very helpful. And so the task that they had to do is they had to go recordings and then compare my language production at different time points in time. Another type of activity was my spontaneous response to a question, and then if I rehearsed it a bunch of times and gathered more information and then recorded it again. Another option was how am I sounding in comparison to other non-native speakers, especially from other language backgrounds. How am I sounding in comparison to the native speaker? And then they had to write their blog entries. And the idea was that they would start seeing patterns from each other and learn from that and grow. And then they also did an linguistic research paper, which they were all undergrads, so this was a little bit gutsy, but they survived and I survived and it turned out okay. Then in the second semester they did internships, and I taught them a course that is called Praktikumsbegleitskurs, but really it's an intercultural competence course. So helping them unpack their internship experience in some form. And there again, they kept reflective blogs. So each week they were supposed to spend about 10 hours at their internship site, and then they had to write what went well this week, what did not go well, and how can I make next week a success based on my successful and unsuccessful experiences. And again, they're supposed to comment on each other. So the idea was that they would start seeing what is an interpersonal conflict and what is an intercultural conflict. Because if something keeps happening across people and across internship context, then maybe this is a cultural issue. Turns out that that is very wishful thinking. And we also, of course, had peer discussion in class, and at the end they had to make a video about their internship and their internship host. The data that I'm going to draw from is their blogs again. So, and I'm picking one task from semester 1 and one person from semester 2. So one of their tasks was they were given the same essay prompt in September at orientation, and then towards the end of our first semester, which in Germany ends mid-February. So again in January, same prompt, same time allotted. And then I gave them both of their essays back, and I said, go fix your errors and compare these two language samples and how they're different and how they're the same. So here is all of my participants, lots of numbers, and here is something to pay attention to. So in their September sample, they were able to catch more than half of their errors. In their most current sample, they only got 21%. So those appear to be things that they just don't know yet. In terms of incorrect corrections, so corrections that they made that then either made it worse or just simply wasn't even an error in the first place, they were comparatively low. If we throw out one of the outliers here, then they're at about 11%. And then if we look at errors that they missed, of course, going along with the first two columns, they missed more in the end than they did in the beginning. So what are some of the differences? They mostly recognize differences in complexity and fluency, so that's good. They discovered some of the things that we expect. Oh, now my adjective endings are better, I'm more fluent. So those are the things that people told them before they went abroad that would be different. And then as the language proficiency developed, they were able to catch more errors. But they were often not able to judge their comprehensibility. Like, oh, I'm more comprehensible. But they actually weren't, because now they were experimenting so much more with lexical items that it was actually less comprehensible than before. They couldn't catch lexical choice issues, genre issues, issues in pragmatics that often was just not recognized by them. And then the number of errors found in their current production was low. So let's look at Katharina. So she was new to Germany, your average undergraduate. And here is her week 9 of our internship experience. We have been talking about different issues, and here's her frustration. She is at a bilingual, bicultural internship site, I should mention. This week I was only at the internship one day because Thursday was a holiday. On Tuesday I spent 4.5 hours stuffing envelopes for Event X. I also found out that I will not be helping with Event X. This was a great disappointment because I was told from the beginning that I would work this event, but my boss said I would help with Event Y. It was a challenge this week. That made me feel discouraged because I was only working on typical intern work, and I have already lost several projects. So utter disappointment and no agency whatsoever, right? There's nothing she can do about this situation. It's all happening to her. And not enough time at the internship side. But then there's what worked well this week. One success was that during the stuffing of the envelopes, which she hated, I got to speak with other interns, and learn more about them. We spoke in German, which was her previous frustration that everything was happening in English. We spoke in German the entire time, and I'm very proud of myself that I was able to do without much effort hold a conversation in German for so many hours. So the thing that she hated led to actually achieving the goal that she had set for herself, which was improving the German. Things to ponder. So this kind of situation here with I found out, this happened to me, I can't do anything about this, happened across people, across time. And in German, we have a concept called Eigeninitiative, which is self-initiative, which is very important cultural aspect. And the students didn't have it. They just weren't going to negotiate with their internship host or their supervisor. And so we kept like, do you notice a similarity between Jennifer's post and John's and Jeremy's? And they were like, well, he has this conflict, she has this conflict, and he has this, they couldn't see the commonalities. So I brought in an article about Eigeninitiative. We did simulations, we did role plays, and here we are in the final week with Katharina. Last week was the end of my internship, but considering that, I had a lot to do. She went from being disappointed about not having enough day to now, on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I was in the office to complete various tasks so that Event X, Project X, would be a success. Remember, Project X, she was dropped from. She's back on. And my challenge is the following. There were many times when I did not know what I should do, but my boss was very willing to help, even though she had a lot on her plate herself. When she would be busy, I did other things. She learned. Until she was able to speak with me, and she liked that a lot. Maybe that is connected with the value of Eigeninitiative that we talked about in class until the cows came home, and the German culture, as we learned in class. I'm very proud that the Project X at Event X was such a success. You know, if it takes until the last week, we'll take it. So did awareness-raising activities help Katharina? Well, she did not take agency in the beginning, and it took her a really long time to get there. She focused on her individual performance and her own goals. So not at what this bigger thing is about and what the place of employment was about, or where her internship was about. She neither noticed the value placed on team performance and teamwork at the internship, nor how it could contribute to her goal. So even when she wrote that situation where the stuffing of the envelope led to her being able to communicate more in German, she never got that that was how she would get to her goal of learning more language. And she has seen me give this presentation, and that's when she went, oh, yes, but you know, better late than never. And she did not become a member of the team except for that one day when she did the task that she hated. After facilitation, she noticed differences in Eigeninitiative and then regained access to Project X, and Project X was a success. So this was really a good thing, but it required a lot of work on our part. So again, our goal was to increase awareness and noticing, improve intercultural communicative competence. They recognized the things that they expected to be challenging. So like the formal-informal address was one of the things that kept coming up as an intercultural issue, Well, that was not your main issue. Your main issue was a lot more complex than that. And they improved over time, but they cannot really see they can't see what they're not ready to see, which is, of course, also something we know from the rest of research. Lexical and pragmatic issues continue to be a problem, and expert facilitation was necessary, both for the linguistic portion as well as for the intercultural competence components. So we need more facilitation, more explicit instruction, more error analysis, and more reflections about the reflections, which seems sort of doppelt gemoppelt, as we say in German, double trouble. So post-study abroad. So here are some of our alumni. They get the University of Freiburg does a nice little graduation picture with them, which is a nice feature. So post-study abroad, we had issues with reverse culture shock. Really, the thing that they don't expect, but that hits them so hard. And we tell them, and we work with them with the study abroad guide, and it still is tough. And they have difficulty reintegrating into American culture, where they have to turn in regular assignments, and they don't have the freedom that they just enjoyed in the German system. So it's tough for them, and they appear to feel completely out of place in the German courses. They don't really fit anymore with those other people in those courses. And they experience the language attrition because they're no longer constantly immersed in it, and they get really frustrated about it, and it's not a pretty situation. So we thought, well, let's do a telecollaboration with the study abroad destination that they just came from, do reflective blocks with them about language learning, language attrition, all of those issues that they're grappling with, and unpacking their experience, and let them do some digital project, again, about language. We hope that it would improve their transition back to home and also into our curriculum, improve the value that they perceive and of our courses and the success within them, because oftentimes they did not do well, even though linguistically they were totally prepared for it, but they just didn't feel right in them anymore. And then develop lifelong learners, turn them into German-speaking community members, wherever that community might be, in the world. So, as I said, they had the option of doing a re-entry workshop, which is new. And then they also, the new thing that we do now is the Freiburg program is actually an exchange program on the backside. The students didn't used to know that, and even a lot of the faculty used to know that. But now we make it explicit, so when we do the interviews in Freiburg for the students from Freiburg coming to MSU, we pick them, and then they meet our students that are in Freiburg, so that when they come to Michigan State University, they have a few friends already in place. And we do the same thing the other way around, which helps. And then we did the telecollaboration with the College of Education in Freiburg, which is a separate kind of university from the real university in Germany. And the class that was our partner class was on teaching intercultural competence to elementary school children. And it was in the English department. So the data, again, is from all of the interactions. The telecollaboration they could do in any format they wanted. They could Skype, they could chat, they could discussion forum it, they could call each other. We just needed to have a record. We didn't care what they did. And then also their reflective essays, and then the blogging that they did as part of our class. So we'll talk about 2 case studies. Christina was a Freiburg returnee in her 20s. She had never learned a language until she was 18 and is now a double language major, studied abroad in Italy, Germany, and Morocco, and is about to go to Jordan. And she had a tough time transitioning back. She had fabulous time in Freiburg, and she did not want to be in East Lansing. She wanted to participate in all these co-curricular activities because, German is my passion, and I'm going to do all these things. And yes, re-entry workshop, wonderful. Thank you so much, Cindy, for putting that on. But she just never showed up. She did become really close friends with those students from Germany, so that helped her through a little bit. So here is from her blog. So because of the different schedule in German university system and our system, we didn't start the telecollaboration until week 7 in our program. So this is the first blog entry, the start of our telecollaboration project. And she said, my identity as a member of the Wells Hall is our building where all the languages are. Wells Hall community means that I feel like a unique and special student of the international family at MSU. I've been coming to Wells Hall every day for 4 years since I have taken language courses here every semester. And even though Wells Hall is no University of Freiburg or Magnus Institute for Arabic, I feel at home when I hear different languages every day. So she's starting to negotiate a little bit. So I feel out of place in East Lansing, but there's this one building on campus where I feel like I'm part of an international community, and that's where I'm at home. And then week 11, so we've done a little bit of telecollaboration. It gets sad again, I'm sorry. This telecollaborative project influenced me because it gave me an opportunity to stay connected with German and particularly with a person in Freiburg. Sounds good, right? The project actually made me sad a lot because I often think of my life in Germany and in Freiburg. The project and my friends from Germany made it clear to me that I do not belong in the US and that I should be abroad. I love America, but I wake up every day here and my life is the same. My days abroad were something that I looked forward to, but I do not have that special feeling here in Michigan. So she's identifying the problem, right? This is not right. I should be somewhere else. And there's hope. Here's week 12. Haha, she's found a solution. In 8 months, I will return to Germany. And I look forward to it. I miss my friends, my family, our AYF teachers, and I miss that I was able to get up every day and see the beautiful Black Forest. I miss German food, German culture, German parties, Stusi, Seepark, Vauban, Freiburg. I might do my MA in Germany, and that will really make me happy. And that is exactly what she's going to do. She's actually going to do another year in our program and then do an MA in Germany. So she's found a way to negotiate her way back, and that's not bad. So the telecollaboration for her was a connection to abroad and at home. It sort of brought these two identities of her together and make them work with each other. And she stated liking this activity best out of all the things we did in class. Most of them did. She's no exception there. She also served as the role of expert. So in these blogs where the students would talk about issues that they had communicating in German, she would help them out. When they talked about the telecollaboration, she would say, oh yeah, you know, when I was in Germany, I had a similar kind of problem, and here's how you solve that in communicating with a German. So she became the peer mentor for them and did a really good job. And then she also started developing the sense of identity as a multilingual person, as a German speaker in the world, and trying to find a way to work together. And she also was someone who really encouraged the other students to speak German with her inside and outside of class. So I'd see her somewhere in the Wells Hall, sitting, speaking with some other students in German, or in Arabic, or in Italian, because she's that way. But she still felt that Germany was really her home and not the US, so we couldn't fix that. But she developed a plan how to get back to Germany. So now we're happy, right? Let's meet Bastian and see how we're doing here. So he was a Freiburg returnee, similar in age, humanities major. He had an okay experience in Freiburg, but he never really integrated in Freiburg as much as we had hoped. He had a very tough transition. He just was feeling completely disconnected, couldn't get motivated for his classes. There were many moments in the semester that I thought he was going to drop out of college altogether. I mean, I really did not think that he was still going to be an enrolled student by today, which he appears to be. I keep seeing him in front of my window. So. And sometimes he said to the other students that he studied abroad. Sometimes he would deny it. So he felt very insecure about his German in class. And so that's why sometimes he would say, oh, I never studied abroad, even though, like, it's right here in my records. You spent a year in Germany. So the impact on Bastian, well, we've got a little bit of a problem because he did not complete any, as in 0 out of 12, reflective blogs about his communication, his language use, his identity, or his language learning. Huh. I also didn't complete any of the telecollaborative tasks, but he stated that he liked them best. Specifically, he also said, I would have probably learned the most from the telecollaboration if I had actually been able to complete it. This was not a person who had issue with a partner not responding. It was him who was the issue. So he was not putting anything forward. But at the end of the semester, it's sort of, as we did these reflective essays about the course and the course components and what they were supposed to learn from it, something again snuggled, and he went, remember how you had those Germans come to class and talk to us? Could I have their contact information? And I said, no, you can't, because that's a FREIBURG violation. But we have this MSU Facebook group for speakers of German. Post a message there, and maybe they will respond. And some of them did. And so he reached out on Facebook and got in touch with German speakers. So I would say there was a little bit of a delayed response of, well, maybe this connection to Germany could be helpful for me. So we wanted to improve reintegration. We wanted to develop lifelong learners of German. We have some mixed results. I mean, we only have 2 people that we can base this all on, and they obviously were very different results. But they were starting to negotiate their own roles and their own identities. Timing might be an issue. I think for Christina, if we had the telecollaboration even earlier, it would have helped her figure out a path better. Bastian wasn't ready. He would have maybe been ready this semester to engage in this kind of project. He was not ready to take these opportunities on. So I think for him later, for her earlier, and we just need more data as always. So my very preliminary cautious tales and conclusions are that I think we are achieving our goal slowly but surely. We're improving articulation, no question about it, and we're increasing our participation. And in terms of enrollment trends, I'm not sure yet, but our majors and minors are going up, and I think it's a contributing factor. So does it work? Jein, a good old German jein, which is yes and no combined. Pre-departure, we increased our study abroad participation. We help with logistical transition. But they might be more aware of their shortcomings, and we'll have to figure out what to do with that. And they need more language and cultural training before they go. Or we need a different kind of program if we continue to get these low proficiency students. During abroad, they were aware of stereotypical issues. My adjective endings are not good. I don't know how to use see and do. But they weren't aware of the things that were causing them bigger problems, such as lexical choices and other more deeply rooted pragmatic issues. So they did develop language competence, intercultural communicative competence, but I still want to make it better. We're not there yet. And they need more facilitation and scaffolding. I mean, that was so clear. If you still remember the example from KATHARINA, that's what she needed. And in terms of post-study abroad, we improved the sense of connectedness through the telecollaboration, or at least the potential for it in the case of Bastian. Christina was really successful in the course, was successful in navigating being a member. She found a role of being back in the German program that other students hadn't been able to before. Bastian, he did not drop out. I'm going to take a little bit of credit for that. So we found a way for him to keep him connected. But we need to review the timing. So in short, I think it's not a straight line, but we're sort of getting there, and we need to do some more reiterations and think about it. And of course, none of that can be done without wonderful people that are part of the team. So thank you to all the students and instructors who are willing to fill out surveys and being recorded and analyzed and talked about. Thank you to my amazing 201, 202 team who run with whatever crazy idea I come up with and put in the extra hours. They're wonderful people. My co-teacher for my German 420 class, and our partner teacher in Germany. My research assistants who get the fun task of helping me code data. And then my writing group, we lock ourselves in a room twice a week for 3 hours and just write. So, and of course MSU for my sabbatical, so I can do these things. CARLA for the invitation, and all of you for listening. And I'm posting my contact information, and I think we have a little bit of, yes, we do have a little bit of time for questions now, before then I talk about my vision. So thank you very much. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the research portion. Or the curricular innovations, either way.
Just point in, you were talking about the errors that you were coding, like how many errors did they catch, how do you define errors?
If it's not right. So if it was something questionable where, dialect could be an issue, I didn't code it either way. I mean, then it was not an error, not a missed error. Then it was just a language variation that I'm ignoring.
So these relatively obvious things like gender and things like that, not, well, this might have been there might have been a better word, but this one works.
No, a better word only if I can't actually understand it. Which, like I said, what we saw in several of the students is that they actually, in their essay, not in their speaking I wouldn't say that at all, but in their essay got less comprehensible because they were trying to be fancy. It's like what I tell my son in a soccer game. I'm like, quit the fancy footwork and focus on that goal. And so they were doing fancy lexical items that they weren't fully controlling, which is great, especially in an interaction when you can get that feedback, but a formal essay may not have been the right opportunity for that. Yeah.
Did you look at lexical density at all?
We haven't yet, but that's one of the things that we want to look at. We also have these interviews that we conducted with them once every 2 months, and so we want to look at that in their spoken and in their essays, yes. But we're not there yet. Mm-hmm.
Did you provide coaching for the students on the reflective blogs?
A little bit, not before, but sort of as we went along. So we would talk about, this is a good blog because they got grading criteria, so that's in a way coaching. But then we also talked about this is a good blog because, and this blog is missing this and this. And then also, not just about the blog, the original post that they put up, but also how they would interact with each other.
And I'm guessing that coaching was not, the valorization wasn't about the linguistic component, but rather, okay.
It was about the content. I mean, it was about the linguistics in the sense that they had speech samples or written samples that they had to analyze. And so, yes, sometimes it was about the thing that we were analyzing, but not the language that they were producing.
You had them do one blog on how they could maximize their language learning. Am I right on that? Was that before?
No, that was so the course in our 4th year course has 4 themes: how our language is structured, how our language is used, how our language is learned, and how do I maximize my language learning. So it's a whole module. It's 3 weeks long.
That last component, how can I maximize my language?
What do we do? So we show them various different technology resources to keep up with the language once they're outside of our classroom. We show them ways of connecting with German speakers locally as well as globally. We have, at various points, have them self-assess their language proficiency using the can-do statements. And so then, okay, so you're stuck right here. Well, if you're stuck right here, then what do you think you could be doing or should be working on? All right, we agree, we disagree, and here's what you can do. So some diagnostic work. And interesting with somebody today, I'm getting all confused who I said what with. But at some point with someone, I talked about self-assessment. And so what we've seen is that most of our students are fairly accurate. So we made them self-assess, and then we used the can-do statements, both instructors, to rate them. And in most of the cases, we came up the same across the 3 of us. And then there were some that just thought they were so amazing. And oftentimes, those that thought that were amazing, that we didn't think were amazing, were the students who had spent time abroad and had amazing fluency, but it was just a string of words and not actually any sign of complexity.
So I missed the first few minutes of your talk, so maybe I might have missed it. But I just realized that these students, their proficiency level is fourth year German.
The last part, yeah, the post-study abroad were 4th year, the pre-study abroad are 2nd year, and the ones that were abroad are mixed batch. And also, I will also say that our 4th year level, like probably many of you in the language programs know, that could mean anything between novice, high, and superior.
Really?
In reality, yes.
Oh, so, and also you talk about internships, so how are they integrated with the overall language study?
So the students that go study abroad have in our year-long program in the 2nd semester have the option to participate in a study in an internship.
So
They don't have to, but they can.
So in that case, so how many hours do they have to work?
It's about 10 hours a week.
A week.
Over, I think it's 13 weeks.
So what kind of internships are they? What development study or focused or?
I had one person in the alumni office for the university, one person in an NGO for environmental issues. I had one person in an independent research institute. I had one person at the German American Institute. I had somebody at teaching English at a high school. I had somebody in the brewery. I mean, we had all kinds of things.
Really vary, isn't it? And also you talk about, the students who feel out of a place in the German courses. So when you say German courses, the content course are there? Or?
Well, so some programs, language programs, make a clear distinction between language and content courses. At my institution, we don't make that clear of a distinction. We do language and content together. So
when you say German courses, what do you mean then?
That could mean a course on film. It could be an applied linguistics course. It could be anything. I mean, anything that we teach on the 4th year level. But we always, no matter what the title of the course is, there's always language work and content work being done inside the course.
Side by side. So why do you think they were,
Why do they feel out of place? They feel out of place because they have developed significantly during their year abroad in their language proficiency, and they have changed as a person too. So now they're in the same classroom with other students who have not been abroad for a year, who were maybe not as linguistically advanced and definitely didn't have the in-depth cultural experience. And so they need different things out of the course, and that can lead to some conflict or feeling displaced.
One last quick question. So when you say they have to write a research paper,
Mm-hmm.
and are they about what the linguistic elements or what the?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for
It should
example,
be linguistic.
yes, it has to be something applied linguistics. So for example, one group, and they wrote it in groups, one group did an analysis of dialect speakers versus speakers of High German. So I sent them out in the countryside, and they interviewed people there, and they interviewed people in the city that didn't speak dialect, and they had to look for, I mean, it wasn't a graduate level paper. I mean, these are undergraduates, right? But what did you notice that is different, and then back it up with the research.
Descriptive sort of.
Yes, yes, and small scale. There's a question in the back, sorry, Dan.
Yeah, you mentioned that there was a sort of a language regression on the part of the returning students. Was that in all skills? Were they tested before and after they left? And was that in all skills or just the productive skills that you noticed, for example, in the writing or speaking?
So this is not based on any research evidence that I collected. So the language attrition that we observed is exactly that. It's anecdotal evidence that we observe in the students. And that's just a minor part. The more important part is that they themselves report on being incredibly frustrated that they're losing their language ability so fast. When they go from 1 year of 24/7 German to 3 hours a week, 50 minutes each. I mean, it's quite a significant decrease in contact hours in German.
Or I was thinking more of the fact that after their study abroad stay, perhaps I misunderstood, after their study abroad stay, they did worse than.
Oh, that was one case. So we had one.
Oh, that was just that one.
But that was the case who got me started. That's my motivator, right? So yeah, that was one student who went abroad and came back with a lower proficiency than she had when she left us. And so part of my bigger research project, which is the effectiveness of study abroad, is looking at what are the factors, what are the choices that students are making in a program like our FREIBURG program, where they have a lot of choices that are impacting their language learning success, their success in integrating into the community, their academic success, and more when I have finished analyzing. But that's the data that I'm working with right now. You had a question.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the. You got reports from coordinators of these study abroad programs, and from what I understand is that the MSU students are one component of a larger group.
For our year-long program, yes.
For the year-long program, is there any? Did you look at the difference between your students and the others in terms of their preparation for being there?
We didn't. So for this time, this is all we did, is ask them to report, the students themselves, our students, and ask the coordinators. As we work through these modules more often, what we want to do is actually, and one of my graduate students might be able to do it this summer, go and compare the actual students across the 4 universities, how they're interacting. But that's exactly our goal, is that, well, that's wrong. That was our goal, until rumors spread that we were increasing our enrollments so well. And then I started getting phone calls from the other 3 universities asking if they could use our modules, and I said, of course they can. So that difference may not be there anymore, except that, of course, they're their own institutions, so they're using these modules in very different ways. So we might still see a difference. And then, of course, I would want to see their module and how they're doing it and what those differences are. But that is definitely down the line, one of the things to look at. I think one more question, and then I have to share my vision.
So I'm thinking about that telecollaboration that happened in the 4th year course. And in those courses, if I remember correctly, you had stated that there were students that had been abroad and students who hadn't. So the students who hadn't been abroad also had this opportunity, correct? Was there anything, have you looked at their blogs at all to see if that had an impact, right? Similar to what you've done pre-departure with these ones, is that having an impact on any of them to motivate them to want to go abroad as well?
There's one case who decided after that course to finally go do our year-long program. I'd been working on him for about 2 years, so I'm not sure if the telecollaboration was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, but I think it contributed. But we also had many personal nudging conversations. Some of the other ones, many of them are graduating, so it's not even an option anymore, but more of them started talking to me, what can I do after I graduate? What opportunities are there to go to Germany? So we had a lesson about that. And then one student was already signed up to go on our study abroad program in Freiburg by the time we did the telecollaboration, and he took great advantage of it as, here's my first buddy. And then we had the German visitors come from Freiburg into our class too, and then it's like, here's another 2 buddies. So he's going over there and already has 3 friends. And, that's a good setup, I think. All right, well, thank you for that part. And I'll switch over